In another field, music can now be produced entirely by electronics. No known instruments are involved. Coded information is punched out. An electronic music synthesizer does the rest. This is music with a strictly electronic beat.
The first synthesizer was discovered in 1919 by Leon Theremin. It became known as a theremin. This sound synthesizer was the first instrument to not need physical touch. A musician who played it just raised his hands near the two antennas, and throughout the movement of the hands, he controlled the volume. The next step in the history of synthesizer development is the Otis Martinoff. Martinoff invented it while he worked as a radio tech during World War I. It was presented to the public in May 1928. It has a mobile keyboard that allows the player to control the vibration and also attain micro intervals. Continuing on is Harry Olsen's RCA Mark I. It was a room filled with synthesizer modules. It was much more complicated than the theremin or the Otis Martinoff. It was controlled by a paper strap of 38 centimeters wide, on which a binary code was encoded, having information about notes and phrases. A particularly interesting form of experimentation was magnetic tape. The first electronic instrument using this trick was called a mellotron. Magnetic tapes that taped excerpts of sound, such as choirs or strings, which gave extremely expressive sounds not possible to attain in any other way. The 1960s was the Mini-Moog synthesizer. It was an attempt to get rid of huge quantities of cables, which could be very complicated in operation and adjustment of the synthesizer. Permanently inscribed in the history of music is the Prophet 5. What's so interesting about the Prophet 5 is that it finally gave the opportunity to save sounds in the cells of RAM and use them freely during concerts.
After disco, there was a heavy use of the synthesizer in the electronic rock genre. Queen, for example, used a Roland Jupiter 8 in their world hit Radio Gaga. A Roland Jupiter 8, for example, can play 8 notes simultaneously. Of course, it would be a shame not to mention Michael Jackson in a discussion on the synthesizer. He was a huge proponent, and his world-renowned album, Thriller, used many different types of synths. His album not only changed how synthesizers were perceived and used in music, but it changed the pop music landscape to date. Leading into the 90s with singers like Cher and Britney Spears using synthesizers to electronically alter their voice, making them sound computerized, more perfect, subhuman almost. This is what we like to call auto-tune.
Hey, my name is Daniel, and I am going to be talking to you about the progression of synthesizers. In the beginning of the video, you saw a guy using a big machine to like synthesize, and then in that last little clip that you saw like about 14 to 15 seconds ago, this guy had it attached to his Mac computer, and he was like synthesizing on the side, and the computer was picking up and telling him all the volumes and all the levels. And as we progress more and more, they begin to incorporate the synthesizer into different things. Like if you went on your computer, you can probably get a synthesizer without the little keyboard. Keyboards usually have them built in, and even in this day and age, they even have a synthesizing app. So you can see that over here, you can kind of see it. You can control the levels and the sounds of the different effects that you have. And then over here, you can actually make songs, and you can export the songs to Dropbox. And you can basically take this, and if you want to be a DJ, you can do your own thing. I'm not the greatest in the world, but I'll give you a little example of what I can do with this thing. Let me show you what I can do. Let me see. Get out of there. Alright, I'm going to try this. Don't laugh at me. as you can see, I have a little bit of practice. But furthermore, basically, the synthesizers are even making their way into the phone apps. It's pretty awesome. And with that being said, we hope you guys got a little understanding of the history and the background of the synthesizer. And we'll take you out of here with a little bit of jams. That concludes our presentation.